Hi, I'm Jeff Good. I'm from ITIP, Ohio, and I have with me Kathy and Nate. And we're going to talk a little bit about, this is their final reflection video for the Teacher Showcase project. So if both of you, could I ask Holly and Jeff, and Jeff to mute your microphones, please? That'd be wonderful.
Oh.
Thank you. So we're getting started here. So if you could both give me your name and your the subjects you teach, and then give me the project name. Ladies first.
My name is Kathy Laney, and I teach high school biology and anatomy. And my project was an augmented reality project on cells, and it was a cell scavenger hunt. And the driving question was, how does a cell do all the different necessities of life?
And my name is Nathan Farrell, and I teach 6th grade science, and we worked with iPads and iPods, and we created speakers for those iPods and iPads. So I think I titled mine like iPads iSearch, because there was a research component that went along with the actual construction of our speakers. And our driving question was really to take what they learned in a science classroom and apply it to how to enhance the volume of an iPod or iPad.
Well, let's work over with Kathy again, and we're going to talk a little bit about yourself. So what would you consider the most important thing you learned in this project?
A lot of organization. You really have to be organized before you get started, because it helps the kids and allows you to wander from person to person and really be that guide on the side, because things flow smoothly.
How about you, Nathan?
I thought the technology model, the SMAR model, was probably the most insightful, as far as, it seems like we focus so much on just substituting technology when it's not necessary. So it helped me to focus on the creation of curriculum, so that, I'm not just substituting technology for the sake of technology, but really taking a technological component and having kids think and redesign, especially in a 6th grade science classroom, the engineering and with STEM. Instead of just typing on the computer, how do you take a piece of technology and enhance and make that piece of technology better, as opposed to just using a substitution type of project. So that's the part I think I enjoyed the most and learned the most from.
Great. Are you guys tapping on your table? Because
I might have bumped it.
That's all right. No, we're just
a little while.
Okay. All right. I thought it was me for a moment, so I appreciate that. So we're going to stay with Nathan, and if you kind of looking back and being futuristic or thinking towards the future, what do you wish you had spent a little more time on or done a little bit differently on the project?
Probably we spent the least amount of time on the research component of the project. We did have a library media specialist who came in and trained the kids on how to do that. But I wanted to keep this project within a 1-week time span, so we probably didn't do as much with the research or as much with the presenting at the end of it, working with kids on their social skills and their ability to speak in front of large crowds. Those types of concepts really didn't get incorporated the way I would have liked to have done those. How
about you, Kathy?
Well, our school is a 1-to-1 laptop school for 7 through 12, and so our kids, by the time sophomores, so I probably would give more time for the video, just because they are capable of doing some really wow things, and they didn't have the time to do those.
Okay, great. We'll stay with you, Kathy. What part of the project did you feel you did your best work on? Give yourself a gold star for something. More than one thing.
I think it's an original project. It's something different. Cells themselves can be boring to just lecture through the parts, because a lot of them the kids can't see under a microscope or do labs with, and so this makes it more engaging and interesting for the students.
Okay, great. Nathan, how about you? Give yourself a gold star. What would you do?
Probably working with the kids on their construction techniques and the engineering components of that. I also like that we incorporated a lot of different technologies. Like we used the iPads to test. So we used an iPad app to test. We used our media specialists to come in and create, research. We used Info Ohio mostly, so students recognizing how Info Ohio works and just incorporating all of these different aspects of the technology in with that.
And the kids really liked being able to use their cell phones in my class. So they could actually take out their phones and use them, because we have a policy against cell phone use.
Great, great. Well, let's talk a little bit about the project, and I'll stay with you, Nathan. What would you consider the most enjoyable part of the project?
It's an interesting question. It's a hard question. Probably the implementation of the project. So when we finally got to the point where I could work with kids on it, if you're just talking about the fun factor, certainly when you get to the point where you've developed it and can actually see the kids working on what you develop. So development, it wasn't probably the most fun. I would go to the actual implementation was the most fun for me.
How about you, Kathy?
I found the videos they made to be pretty cool, and I also liked hearing the feedback from the kids when I made my own video, what they liked and didn't like.
So in the same vein, you talk about the what you consider the most enjoyable part, and Kathy, I'll stay with you. What would you consider the least enjoyable part of the project?
All the paperwork.
Well, related though to your project, not so much the
my
umbrella.
Project, just probably looking at trying to come up with, and if I have had a very large group this year in biology, and so I had to come up with a pretty long list of cell topics for the groups to work with that, and then take those and assign them based on their ability levels.
How about you, Nathan? What would be considered the least enjoyable part?
Probably the development of the project in terms of making sure I had enough materials for every kid, and gathering all of those junk components so they had enough to work with, and making sure I had enough iPads, enough computers for the kids to use while they were doing the project.
So I'll stay with you, Nathan. Let's say you're going to do the project again. What would you change about the project to make it better the next time you do it?
I'd probably give myself more time, or the students really more time to be able to develop. So I would probably stretch it out into a week and a half time length project. Probably do the research component earlier in the project. We kind of researched as we went. I probably would have separated it out and said, okay, the research component is separate from the actual project component. So I would just switch that.
So Kathy, you're going to do the project again, and what would you do to make it better?
I think I need to give them more time. I think I have the setup. This is the second year actually that I've done this particular project, and I felt more organized in that, but I do think that the kids would prefer a little more time. So maybe not necessarily more class time, but more time in between when we start it and when it's due, because they do a lot of stuff outside of class.
So Kathy, I'll stay with you. Talk maybe a little bit more in detail about how you integrated technology into this project. I know you touched on it a little bit.
So this project was using an augmented reality app called Erasma, and basically the students find images associated with their topic, and they make videos about their topic. In this case, we talked about cell organelles and different parts of the cells and things like that. And then you take those two things and you put them together and create what's called an aura. All these are put online on a place called the studio.erasma place, and then when the kids take their phone, if you have the pictures hanging up, the kids can actually see everybody's videos using a smartphone. So during our family literacy night, we hung those signs up down the hallways, and so the parents could go on a little scavenger hunt and see those. So the kids liked being able to show off their Erasmus to their parents.
Very neat.
So any smart device can use it. I'm sorry, any smart device you can download the Erasma. In fact, if you have Erasma, you can look at a $1 bill or some of the other corporate logos, and it'll often play different things, videos.
Very nice, very nice. And Nathan, on your end, when you get a little more, you talked a little bit about how you integrated technology. A little more detailed.
Sure. We started by simply defining technology. Teaching young children, sometimes just them having a concept of what technology is difficult. So after we finished defining technology, we went to the library media specialist and used Info Ohio for the research component. And with that, we were researching sound. What is sound? Sound waves. How does it travel? And from there, they also did a little bit of research on other designs for iPad speakers that are out there. So they used it for that as well. On going back a question and something I would change, I had them stick strictly with Info Ohio, there's a component of InfoOhio that allows them to create kind of a presentation within InfoOhio. I probably would have used that in hindsight because I think it would have been more efficient and we could have actually got to that presentation point where we ran out of time. So from there, they actually had to use then the iPods after they developed their speaker device to do the testing, and then we used an iPad to test the iPods. So we used an app on the iPad, and we set parameters to use that app, so they had to be like a foot from their speakers. They had to use the same song, same point in the song. So we talked about variables with that, and then we graphed our data on the computer as well. So
wonderful. So either one can go first on this one. But what would you say if you had to think about that impact that that technology integration had on your students, and then that impact that that tech integration had just with yourself?
The kids always love to use the computers. You have to give them something, though, that at least at my level, at the sophomore level, you can't just give them busy work on a computer. You have to have a good, authentic source, and the fact that their stuff is going to be seen not just by their peers, but also by parents and community members. It ups the ante. I've also, in the past, when we've done videos, put it, given extra credit points if they put it on YouTube and got feedback about how to improve their video and incorporated it in there. That's always a good thing. The second part of that?
how it impacted you?
Oh.
How did it impact you?
Well, I have not used the iPad before for various things, so for me, getting to use the iPad and getting to know the iPad was important because I usually use a MacBook Pro.
How about you, Nathan? What was that impact that you saw with your students and yourself?
Well, when I think back to the first smartboard I had, there was a huge novelty factor for little kids, and they were wowed by it. If you were to go into the classroom now, they're just so used to those types of technologies, they could care less. As a matter of fact, I wrote on my whiteboard the other day because my smartboard wasn't working correctly. They were like, "You can write on that whiteboard?" They were amazed by the whiteboard marker. So there is a novelty factor for little kids, and so we really have to
big kids.
Yeah. So we have to take if we're going to use the technology in the classroom effectively and get kids engaged, we have to take it to that next level. That's why I liked the model of not just substituting technology for technology's sake, but okay, how can we take a piece of technology and maybe make it better? And I think that was powerful, kids to say, oh, I don't have to just take this piece of technology somebody's given me. I can actually do some development on that. That can lead them into some point. Maybe they're going to be the next generation of iPad developers and, taking it to the next level. So I think that was a huge impact for little kids. It creates an interest level for them, and it recreates a novelty factor. Not that that's always a great thing, but there's something to be said for that.
Right, and it is a lot to be said for it because I can remember doing my first web quest and the kids were like, "Oh, this is cool," but now if you gave them web quests, they'd be like, "Are you kidding me?" Because gotten so many of them, and like I said, since we do have a lot of technology at our school, it means you do have to at my level as a sophomore, teaching sophomores and seniors, is that you have to really be on top of new ideas yourself.
I was going to say, personally, the way that it affected me is it caused some reflection on how we use that technology and how efficiently. Certainly, if I am using just a substitution of technology and that's taking longer for me to get content to kids, then I should be switching back, maybe even to a more antiquated form of getting content to kids. So, it caused a lot of reflection.
Let me reach out to the folks on our other site here, and Holly and Jeff. Hopefully you're there, and I've got you on the screen right now. Holly, as part of your administrative position, what would you say were some of the things that you noticed differently, maybe with the students, or even just with Kathy and Nate, as far as that whole tech integration?
Okay, can you hear me?
Certainly, I can hear you great.
All right, very good. I noticed that the students were excited. Kathy's the teacher on my side of the building. Mr. Farrell, Nathan, is on the elementary side, so I didn't get to watch and see and hear necessarily what he was doing until today. But I did notice that the kids did have a level of excitement about walking around and doing the cell project, using the whole entire building and using the technology that Mrs. Laney showed them how to use to make that come alive, make that more real to them and
Great.
More exciting.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to head back to the other folks. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
And as far as just want to wrap it all up, we appreciate your time with the Teacher Showcase Project, And hopefully, as you use the lesson again, you'll improve it and do some new things, and we hope to hear from you again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.